Greetings and salutations. You are listening to the Into the North podcast, where we take a look at the competitive side of the Commander format, also known as CEDH. I'm one of your hosts, Lyndon, aka Noobzors, and today I'm joined by my co-hosts, Matt, aka Null.
Yo.
Reed, aka Sick Robot.
What's up?
And Morgan, aka Spleenface.
How's it going?
And in this episode, we're going to be covering Zendikar Rising. And we're also going to be, this is going to be the first half of the show. And in the second half, we're going to be answering I guess it's a topic that's inspired by a listener question.
Yeah. About new sets in general.
Yeah. So
you can't say that because now that they know, we just take all of our content from listener questions.
I mean, our last episode was literally a mailbag, so if they hadn't figured it out by then.
Dude, mailbag part 2 with a sprinkling of Zendikar Rising cards. You know?
And then we're going to have our hot takes episodes. Yeah, just outsource.
Dude,
just
our hot takes
our
episode,
content, right?
We've got so many in the bank. It's going to, we could
for sure.
milk that forever. But yeah, moving on. In this episode, we're going to do that. So before we actually get into the main topic of the show, what have you guys been up to since the last episode?
Well, the Teamfight Tactics season just reset as of the time of recording. So I've been spamming games.
So we've decided to add a new DF section to all of our episodes.
I've been playing the popular new game with the kids, Among Us, and tested that out the other day with Morgan and some of our friends. It's pretty fun.
I feel like you don't have to say, I've been playing this popular new game when you played like 2 hours last night.
You know what? I've already spent money on a pet, so that
is true. He was paying to win. It took him, we hadn't even played our first game. He was like, I'm going to spend money to be better at this game.
Pay to win.
Dude, it's the way it is. Anything else? Anyone?
Not really.
Yeah. I've been waiting patiently for the new Path expansion, and I took Monday off, so
I'm sure our listeners can relate to our, very exciting lives that we all live.
I mean, look, they're implementing
our bi-weekly updates.
They're also there's not a lot going on because they're re-implementing freaking restrictions on gatherings again, so the world's definitely moving a little slower than maybe it was in the past.
I got my last barbecue in, which honestly I'm happy about because I've been to so many freaking barbecues.
Oh man, wait, was I cheering for the Raps in the last episode?
Yep.
Oh man, yeah. And that's coming out. That's going to come out after the series is over. Brutal. So sad.
I'm pretty sure I nailed it because I said you're talking about the Raptors and they're going to have been eliminated in Game 7 when this comes out.
Yep.
Dude, big sad. Although, shout out as a Toronto-based podcast, shout out to the Denver Nuggets and Jamal Murray for sending the Clippers home. Jamal Murray from Kitchener, Ontario, like a 20-minute drive from me. So, big ups to Jamal Murray.
I love how as soon as he wants to, Lyndon can totally just, we're Toronto-based. But then when it's advantageous, he's like, I'm not from Toronto. What kind of people?
Yeah. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump into housekeeping. And as always, housekeeping is where we give shoutouts to our new patrons. So I think we've had no new patrons for a couple weeks in a row.
No, we had our last episode had some new patrons. Or a new patron.
Okay. I know it's been a bit slow, but you know what? I want to give we've got 3 new patrons this week.
Wow.
So, big shout out to Max, Alex, and Ulthar. So, big shout out to Max as well for being a returning patron. So I know during these times, everything is a bit rough and there's lots of uncertainty. So, obviously we've said, and, of course, if this is still the case, anyone who wants to, suspend their patronage or whatever, by all means, focus on what's important. But big shout out to Max for coming back. It's great to see. Yeah. And then our last patron shout out is a shout out to Not Jordan from the GitRock server, who has once again failed to uphold his end of the bet.
The best part about this is that we're just gonna stack shaming because we haven't even released the last shaming yet at the time of this recording. So he's gonna hear that one and be like, oh man, all right, I'm gonna go do that, and then listen to this one and just be like, hey, come on.
Dude, he deserves it, man. It's a single month, a single $1 of patronage. He made me play elves for like, three days worth of just like grinding, man. It's no bueno. Okay, but yeah, that's enough of housekeeping. Yeah, so big shouts to Max, Alex, and Altar again. You rock.
You rock.
So then I guess new developments. We've got well, I'll let Morgan handle this
pretty
one.
much the same development, yeah.
Okay, these are both separate and very important. So the first is, we mentioned in our last episode that there were applications for new moderators of subreddit,
and
Chaboy applied, and Chaboy was accepted. So I'm now officially a Reddit mod, which means whenever you guys post mean stuff on our episodes, I can ban you.
Or for that matter, if you posted mean stuff pretty much anywhere within the sphere of CDH.
Yeah. Also,
about any of us,
make sure whenever you get terrible ideas from the podcast, you correctly credit Lyndon and not Reed.
Oh yeah,
or we can ban you. And the second new development is that there are new mods of the r/competitive EDH Discord server, and I also applied for that, and I was also accepted for that. So I'm slowly collecting all of the roles and all of the power, and then I can commence the coup. I mean, and then I'll be involved in
you can
all
initiate
aspects of
the snap to destroy half of
exactly.
CDH.
Exactly.
And then Morgan can split the
So
format
I need
in any way he
6,
chooses.
right? 6. So we've got Play ADH, the Nexus, the CH, the subreddit Discord, the subreddit itself, the Facebook group. And then like the 6th one is the Soulstone, where I have to make some sort of weird sacrifice. And
the
I don't
sacrifice
even know.
is playing Frog for 6 months so you can get Toad Sage.
That's it,
Oh
right.
my goodness. Yeah.
I have to lose that which I love, and playing Frog would certainly
Yeah.
to
make me
detach
lose
yourself
something
from
that I
worldly
love.
desires, like playing real
Exactly.
CDH decks and having fun when you're playing games of EDH.
Dude, glad we could figure this out.
Yeah, really put it well there at the end.
Yeah, but I mean, so just to tack on to that, it was a lot of work sifting through applications, and although like it was a shared burden among the team, Lurker really spearheaded that, so big thanks to Lurker for doing a lot of the work and coming through, orchestrating interviews, all that good stuff. Thanks to everybody who applied. If you didn't make it in, rough, but you can always wait a while, reapply if you think you've gained the experience or whatever that's needed. And also, I mean, I think we're continuing to keep tentative Discord applications open, because it's sort of hard to find good Discord mods. So I mean, if you think you might fit the role, get in touch with the advisor admin on the CDH subreddit Discord, and let us know.
Cool. Okay, so main topic, and we're gonna start off with the cards from Zendikar Rising. So we're gonna do. It's not a massive set. I mean, it's probably gonna take us 2 or 3 episodes to cover everything from Commander Legends, I'm expecting. And Zendikar Rising, we've got not too much to cover, so we're gonna spend.
In fact, incredibly
not
small number of things to cover.
We should really stop estimating how long things are going to take us. At least we should stop saying the estimates, because we're never right.
I've already zoomed my recording window out to like the 4-hour mark, because I'm just then at least I get like a progress report.
Yeah, so we're gonna spend, a lot of the cards we're gonna talk about. We're only gonna spend a bit of time, mentioning until we get to some of the heavier discussion points later on. So it's gonna start with kind of like the shitters into the heavy hitters. Oh,
wow! That should just be the section name.
Yeah,
every time.
Shitters and heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start. We'll read the cards in the order of episode, the way we introduce everyone. So I'll start. And the card we have first on our list is Confounding Conundrum. So this is an enchantment that casts for 1 and a blue, and it reads: when Confounding Conundrum enters the battlefield, draw a card. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player had another land enter the battlefield under their control this turn, they return a land they controlled to its owner's hand. So we put this on the list not because we think it's a good card, but because it's gotten a lot of discussion that we all think is unwarranted. It's just not a good card in CDH.
But it means that if they crack their fetch land,
it's So the people
basically just like
people like
People don't play explosive veggies in this format, which means that this is a bad card.
But it replaces itself, so it's not even like
really good.
Okay, but think about it. If you have this in play and someone has 2 fetches and somebody else plays an Aven Mind Sensor, then they're actually faced with a confounding conundrum.
Oh my god.
But you see, if you're playing pre-Oracle Consult in Zur, this lets you crack Doomsday Piles / draw off of Labman? I don't know.
Wait, that doesn't work at all.
Huh?
Okay, we're spending
far
too long
just
playing hypothetical scenarios where
swing
this
with
is good.
Zur and then shuffle your library. That doesn't seem good.
I'm
I think
sure
the
there's a
important
pile
thing,
that works with it.
the important thing for people to realize about this card is it's
Bad.
you look at comparable effects. So one, like, it's just very easy for people to play around. You play your fetch, you pass the turn, you crack the fetch in the next upkeep for no drawback. People don't do land ramp, and the I think important part is you compare it to like what you kind of wish this effect was. So look at like Thalia Heretic Cathar or like Root Maze or something like that, right?
Yeah, this is very much not one-sided Root Maze.
Yeah, if someone plays, if you have a Thalia Heretic Cathar, the one that non-basic lands your opponent's control enter into play tapped, then they're playing their fetch, it's coming into play tapped, and then if they want to crack it for a duel, then it's coming into play tapped. So you're actually like doing some mana denial there, whereas this is just nothing. It's not even a speed bump. So yeah, like the only reason to even consider it would be for its ETB draw card in like some kind of flicker deck, but there's just better cards for that. So big 0 out of 10 for CDH.
Yeah, and the fact that if they desperately want the mana that turn, they can still have it. Just makes it like even worse as a hate piece.
Yeah,
like the thing that it ostensibly stops, it doesn't even stop.
So Matt, up next.
Sure. I have the absolute pleasure of reading the card Maddening Cacophony. For 1 and a blue, sorcery, kicker, 3 and a blue. Each opponent mills 8 cards. If this spell was kicked, instead, each opponent mills half their library, rounded up. And the... Why did we include this card?
Because it's technically a combo piece with the
jumpstart question mark
with the jumpstart Bruvac the Vandiloquent that doubles
the 3 mana mono blue commander that doubles mill to your opponents.
Yeah, so it's like it's
okay.
Yeah, and I guess with Shuffle Hulk gone, the only deck that it doesn't auto kill is Get Rog.
It seems like there just aren't any CDH decks that it doesn't auto kill.
It also just doesn't auto kill Hermit Druid when they are just playing like Memory's Journey.
Yeah, true. But again, who's playing these decks? So no, but in all seriousness, like I guess just upgraded. This was Traumatized was the effect that did this before.
Yeah.
And
Traumatized can only kill one person. So
this
is better? Question mark.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is a sorcery in like for mono blue, somewhat accessible. It's less accessible than like an artifact. based win con, so it's like obviously not going to compete with Urza, or I mean it's probably not going to compete with like
It's
almost
not.
any
I
of the
mean,
other mono
it's
blue
not
decks.
going to
Those
compete.
decks don't have one card win cons. Like Chain
Yeah.
Delta Fairy kind of does, but there's a lot of asterisks on that
But
one
I
card
mean,
win
like,
con.
Yeah,
Fibble
this
Fip.
is more directly
Yeah,
kind of
I don't think it compares
two-card
particularly
combo.
favorably to Fibble Fip, and that's
Yeah, that's
that's
saying
saying
something.
something.
that's not where you want to be.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, let's move
So
on.
next up, we got fun one, Seagate Stormcaller, 1 in a blue for a human wizard creature. It's a 2/1. It has Kicker for 4 in a blue. When it enters the battlefield, copy the next instant sorcery spell with converted mana cost 2 or less you cast this turn when you cast it. And if it was kicked, copy it twice instead, and you can choose new targets. So basically, just good for Enola.
So yeah, sorry, did you say Kicker 4 in a blue? Because I'm pretty sure that Kicker costs 1.
Is it? What? Oh.
No, it's on the card. It's 4 in a blue, but the only reason this card is good is because you can pay for it with like you get an Enola trigger and then you get to double copy stuff. Also, there's some nice layering you can do where if you have like let's say you have Dark Ritual and then and like a Demonic Tutor, you can play this with the Enola trigger on the stack, cast a Dark Ritual, have it doubled, and then pay for the trigger, and then cast a Demonic Tutor and have it doubled, rather than have one spell triple and one spell not copied at all. It's like an interesting sort of potential combo extender and potential like value piece. I don't know if it'll wind up in the deck permanently. It's currently in over Watcher for Tomorrow, which I've been like really unhappy with, but just wanted like one more value piece. So we'll see if this stays in the deck long term or if it gets swapped out for, I don't know, just another piece of interaction. But it's definitely spicy and it's a lot of fun. And it does technically have like some weird combos, but it's hard to combo with because you have to cast the spells to copy them, so you can't keep like reanimating it and then
Kind of cool with Culling the Weak too, right? Because getting the copy effect on a spell with a pretty steep cost like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of mana.
Yeah, I'm always happy to see Enola kind of get bonuses.
I do think
Cool
that
deck.
like Enola is a great example of a deck that is like very healthy for the CDH metagame,
Oh yeah, for sure.
right? Like
I think let's put a pin in this because
Yes.
I know in our next topic I want to touch on this.
and we also have a card next that Morgan is incredibly excited to.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
reveal.
dude, he was talking this card up nonstop in
Incredibly
pre-show.
excited to dump on this card, and that card is Tazri, Beacon of Unity. It costs 4 and a white. It's a legendary creature, human warrior, not an ally. Interestingly, it's
Can
a
I just-
force.
Can I just stop you there? Do you need to read the rest of this card, or can we just say what it is?
Let's just read it.
Let's just read
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
All right.
Legendary creature, human warrior, 4/6. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. What does that mean? Doesn't matter. And then it has hybrid 2 generic blue, hybrid 2 generic black, hybrid 2 generic red, hybrid 2 generic green. So the 4 colors that aren't in the cost. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 cleric, rogue, warrior, wizard, and or ally cards from among them and put them into your hand, but the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it's kind of an infinite colorless outlet in 5 colors, but not really, because you're still going to need colored mana to cast the pieces that you're finding.
Right now.
So, like the colorless combos, which would presumably be either Kinnan Basalt Monolith or Zerda Basalt Monolith, aren't great. And like I don't think they're enough better than the ones that make colored mana to justify running this. And at that point, just play Kenrith.
Yeah.
Especially because it can actually enable Dockside combos with like a sack outlet. So
Yeah.
it's bad.
It also just like feels a really, you mentioned that is not an ally. It just feels weird that they also, despite not making an ally in its creature type, they just
It
threw
can
in
still
ally.
find allies. Yeah.
Flavor fail.
So I
man.
guess technically it's not. You don't actually need infinite colored for it. Or like you don't even need a colored mana for it, just because you can find Diviner's Wand with it.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, is it a tribal artifact?
It's a
wizard?
tribal wizard equipment.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
We broke it on
Oh,
camera.
I don't think that's what happened here.
Red alert! Red alert! We need a soundboard. You know,
Okay,
Like, you can also,
yeah,
I don't
whatever.
think-
broken combo.
Like, especially because like Zerda and Kinnan are both like this deck's
it's
like
just-
value
it's not-
case
it's just
is
not good.
so
Yeah.
much
It's just
worse than
terrible.
Kenrith's.
Yeah.
It's
like-
not better than any other generic 5-color infinite mana thing, because nobody's playing 5-color infinite mana combos anyway. Because
I mean,
who
people are
would
playing
do
dark side
that?
combos in Kenrith. That's definitely a thing.
Okay, sure, but you're spoiled for choice
Yeah.
and outlets in 5-color at this point.
Yeah.
And like, for the most part, honestly, at this point, you don't even need to be running infinite mana combos. So it's just like, just play something better. just play something with a better value case, please.
But if I have a full party, then it only costs a white for a 4/6.
Wow. Powerful. Speaking of,
I just feel like I'm compelled
multicolored-
to say
Oh my
I wouldn't put a 1-mana 4/6 in most of my decks.
okay. Speaking of bad, multicolor commanders that no one is going to play. Up next, we have Omnath, Locust of Creation. And Omnath casts for red, green, white, and blue. It's a legendary creature elemental, and it reads, when Omnath, Locust of Creation, enters the battlefield, draw a card. And then it has landfall. So whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 4 life. If this is the first time this ability has resolved this turn, if it's the second time, you add red, green, white, and blue mana to your mana pool. If it's the third time, Omnath deals 4 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker you don't control. And Omnath is a 4/4.
So yay, you can play a 4-color Sunsplash Food Chain deck instead of a 3-color or 2-color Sunsplash Food Chain deck, and still have it be bad.
He's also potentially one of the best ephemerate commanders in the format now. Hey, I just call him like I see him. All I'm looking for, all I want out of life is for there to be a real ephemerate commander, and this is
So, I mean, the
probably
fact that a
best.
fetch land makes you 4 mana, so it's like a super
Yeah.
Lotus Cobra, is like kind of cute, but you can't cast Ad Nauseam with that mana, so...
In fact, you can't really do a whole lot with that mana.
Just look at the art for this Omnath. He's got like all the Dorito flavors, all like the Cheeto, the dust all over his fingers, man. He's got like Cool Ranch, sweet chili heat, just regular, and
Like cheddar or whatever it is.
yeah, dude,
whatever the cheesy one is.
I
Yeah.
can't wait for him to finally ascend to the 5-color.
Oh no, it's chili
gonna be-
lime.
Oh yeah, true.
But yeah, like, I guess, yeah. The fact that you can, like, play a fetch land, make 4 mana, and then, I don't know, cast Wheel of Fortune is, like, cute. People are also talking about doing, like, Nerumeha or Dualcaster Ghostly Flicker shenanigans with this, and it is an instant speed outlet for that, because you can flicker lands and then flicker Omnath to reset. But that's, like, very narrow, and I think people saw that it draws a card when it enters the battlefield and went, oh my god, it actually has some value outside of the combo, but that's like not a real amount of value.
Yeah. You have to work real hard to make that into like real value.
Like
casting it a
My
ephemerate on
commander
it.
cantrips is not I have card advantage in the command zone.
Yeah.
Those aren't the same statement at all.
Dibblethip cantrips, therefore.
Yeah.
It's interesting also that his ability is the second time that he references the ability resolving and not the second land played this turn. Have you thought about that? Like,
It's just because so you
it's
can
an interesting templating.
It's just so the reason it's templated the way it is, there's 2 things that it enables. One, if you reset Omnath, you can get the triggers again. And if you don't specify about the ability resolving, then it actually does get kind of spicy because you can get the same trigger more than once if you respond to them. So, like if you had it in play and then you played a land, and let's say you had an extra land play, you play a fetch land, you play a second fetch land, you play a fetch land, let the trigger resolve, play a second fetch land, respond to the trigger, break a fetch land, respond to the trigger, break a fetch land, and add 12 mana.
Is that how that works?
Would you ever consider this deck if like you could maybe imagine some kind of outlet with, like dockside loops to make infinite, colored mana, and like if you're doing Curio or
yeah, but you can just
Team or
play
Sabertooth, you can
Thrasios.
draw your deck. So like you have combo, but I just don't think the commander's good enough. But I was saying if his third ability also dealt damage to creatures you don't control,
Well, then,
like, you think that'd be good enough?
insane.
I think that'd be totally nuts.
Rat
Yeah.
somebody's board by holding a fetch for a turn? Yeah, okay.
no, but it's
Yes,
like
that
that's
would
still
be
difficult
insane.
to enable.
That would be
That's still
really
difficult to
good.
enable.
Yes.
I think if it had the payoff of Omnath, pass, untap, play a fetch, cast ad nauseum, then it would be awesome. But
Yeah.
I don't think we have that access to that type of card in non-black. It's far from Enter the Infinite.
But yeah, I don't feel like it's better than the Thrasios variants in those colors,
Yeah, no.
or the food chain variants in higher colors or not even in higher colors because Ukima
In
exists.
food chain variants in black,
Yeah,
where
in
you
black,
have
pretty
consult
much.
and tainted pact. All right, I guess.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next one.
Yeah.
Sure. So this next one is Lithoform Engine for 4 mana, legendary artifact. 2 and tap, copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. 3 and a tap, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. 4 and a tap, copy target permanent spell you control. The copy becomes a token. I think it's an interesting ability to be able to copy permanent spells. And
permanent spell is such an interesting
I think it's
combination of
the
words.
first time we've seen that, like being able to copy like a creature
yeah,
spell.
and what's funny is it's in addition to it kind of being the first time, it's also printed alongside another card that does the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's also, I mean, it's something that is very easily enabled by a piece of software that handles the rules for you.
Yeah.
But that being said, as far as CDH, this is a Isochron Scepter, not replacement, but like, redundancy piece, and
It's-
also has like additional.
But and it's
combos.
also a
Braga.
Stronic
Resonator
Resonator,
replacement
yeah.
for
Yeah,
for
Brago,
Brago.
which is also the other modes on this are also like potentially nice because you can because you're in combat, you can like copy spells as well, to potentially like guarantee finding yourself a win in a way that you can't with Stronic Resonator.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, it's narrow, but it enables some stuff in some decks.
Yeah, you do unfortunately have to copy spells you control.
Yes. You could copy instants and sorceries your opponents control. Oh, baby.
It'd be probably worth inclusion.
So that being said, this is also sort of neat just because like it does things that Isochron Scepter can't. So like you can copy sorceries with it. And then you can also copy like stuff above 2 CMC. So like if you're playing like, I don't know, like God forbid you're playing a turnabout deck, but if you're playing a turnabout deck, like you can use turnabout as your dramatic reversal as well for Lithoform
Yes.
Engine. I don't know. It's just
Or reality spasm.
yeah, sure.
Hey, maybe I'll try this in Mizzix. Who knows? But yeah, it's definitely narrow. It's not going to be going into any
Yeah.
color decks.
And I don't think it's like an improvement on anything really. It's just sort of a redundancy piece for all of its uses right now.
Well, it does. It combines effects of certain cards.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like, so you could potentially be playing a Scepter in Brago deck, or like,
And hey, you know what? Maybe I can cuck Lyndon a bit on this, but it's technically a mana rock for Godo.
Oh man.
that is true.
Yeah,
Oh, like a cost reducer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Barely,
Dude, you
but
can cost reduce it. You can do cost reduction in two
In
ways,
two
man.
ways,
You can
dude.
copy the
It's
Godo
fantastic.
permanent spell.
or
you can copy
really.
yeah.
True.
I mean, that's actually potentially relevant if you want to like play around a counter spell.
Yeah, that is true. You cast Godo. If they respond, you copy the Godo if they don't respond, you copy the activated or triggered ability.
But I mean, that's also like 1,000,000 mana. But yeah,
I mean,
this is Godo, right?
That being said, it's also like, like it's a Panharmonicon effect in that deck that costs like some extra mana, but also has additional utility. Like you can.
I mean, the deck does not run Stranic Resonator as is, so that's.
No, I know, but it
is
also
a lot more useful than
costs some extra mana.
Like you can copy like creatures that you're playing. You can copy Clasms. You can copy, there's a bunch.
All right,
cool.
Okay,
yeah.
Next, Reed. This is you.
Yeah.
We've got like multi cards here, so this is like
we're just gonna cover pretty much all of these in one go. So these are just the multi-faced flip lands, DFCs, dual-faced
cards,
dual-faced untapped lands.
Yeah.
So just the mythic rare flip lands for the set. We're not really gonna
lands, dude.
So the general theme with these is that they're pretty much unplayable on their face in CDH anyway, but because they come stapled to an untapped land, they're playable in decks that don't or like aren't already capped on like multicolor lands and don't care about CMC. So basically, just like low color non-black decks are sort of interested.
The
in
thing
these.
is that if it's not even caring about CMC. Oh, okay, I see. In terms of black, I thought you were going to say like
Crick's not going to play the black one.
Yeah.
Or anything on Nas.
Like anything on Nas. Like the black one is only like 3 CMC, yes, but
it's bad. So
it's bad.
Why bother?
There's no reason to play it.
Just play a swamp that doesn't cost you.
Yeah. Because the black one, reanimates stuff, but it costs a lot of mana to reanimate the stuff that you'd want to be reanimating, and black decks aren't going to use it that well. But the other ones are like just pump mana into them and get some amount of marginal return at the end if you have literally nothing else to do, which is like a reason why you would just play these in any deck, right? So
let's read out we've selected 3 that we think are going to be or like playable.
Yeah,
I guess the white one.
Well, it's more just
like
the white one. Like white's just bad. So
white
so it doesn't
get a slice of the color pie.
Man,
so.
Well, that being said, if it had something like creatures you control get +1/+1, it would be slightly better.
Yeah, I mean,
but it doesn't.
We could just like give general ideas on these. I think like they don't matter a huge amount.
We read the cards. Read the cards.
Shadow Skull Snatching is red. It's the X red sorcery, deals X damage divided as you choose among up to 2 target creatures and/or planeswalkers, and if X is 6 or more, it deals twice X damage divided as you choose among them instead. So it's a limited Rolling Thunder.
So the main benefit for this is for mono red decks like Godo, or I guess if you're like Zada or something, but where you're casting your commander is important, and obviously Drannith Magistrate being a thing is troublesome. So the fact that you have an untapped land that can also just act as a removal spell for Drannith, or some other stacks piece or threatening piece like a Mind Sensor, or just remove like a Timna or something, like why not? It's really nice.
It's quote unquote mass removal stapled to an untapped land, so no reason not to
call
play
it
it.
Mass removal, but it hits 2 things.
It's 2 things, but
Also,
it also hits Ashiok too in Godo, which is big.
It's funny, they learned their lesson from the one from Oath of the Gatewatch that was like a double.
That just does X to both.
Fall of the Hammer. Well, no, that one could target players.
Yeah.
And if you guys remember, Oath of the Gatewatch was when they were like, "Hey, do 2-headed giant pre-releases, everyone," and whoops. I'm pretty sure
nuke the other team from orbit.
I'm pretty sure I cast that twice and dealt 34 damage with it. In 2 pre-release games, because you could just target both your opponents.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, we got the Baral card in this patch. Seagate Restoration, 4 blue sorcery. Draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand +1. You have no max hand size for the rest of the game. So literally just a mono blue mana sink. Like if you're in mono blue, you just play this, and sometimes you. So the one thing that's land, and then you cast
rough is that mono blue decks are often on Sanctuary, Mystic Sanctuary, and are generally on Back to Basics.
Yeah,
So there is definitely a cost to this one, whereas Shatter Skull Smashing is actually like becoming a mountain is a strict upgrade if there's a Blood Moon in play.
Definitely true.
I have been testing Ruination in my Godo build, so
okay, well,
it's
all right. Well, yeah. But
that being
yeah,
said,
I
I think we're gonna see this one more than any of the others.
Yeah, maybe
just
not in
responsibility
Urza
sense.
specifically, just because Urza does play back to basics and it wants to do Mystic Sanctuary stuff a bit more aggressively than the rest of the mono blue decks, I think. But I think in like literally every other mono blue deck, you're gonna see this one.
I think this could see play in Urza. I mean, as a
I think it might.
I think you have to try it.
Keegan is our resident Urza player.
I think
is going to be
are
testing it. He's an advocate.
I think people are definitely going to be
card.
testing it, and it might definitely be fine. I just like think that it's more iffy in Urza than any of the other mono blue stuff, just because
the thing with I think is Urza just makes so much mana, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
And then we got, so for green, we got Turn Timber Symbiosis, 4 green, sorcery. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. If that card has a converted mana cost of 3 or less, it enters with 3 additional +1/+1 counters on it. Puts the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. Yeah, I mean, Selvala, Yasan, Marwin.
It definitely mostly Selvala. Or like Selvala and Marwin more than Yasan, because Yasan definitely cares about forests a lot. Like Aquarian and
honestly, if you have 7 mana with Selvala and like this is your best spell to cast,
you're losing the game anyway.
Well, no, but I mean, I think it's reasonable if you replace a forest with this, and then you say like sometimes this is like an extra attempt.
Oh, definitely.
Well, yeah, you get to
it's just
you
like
can find maybe like a Duskwatch recruiter or something. Yeah, that's
especially with Selvala, where like or just green decks where you really just don't care about your life total as much as any of the other monocolored decks. So
it really
is much more free.
The issue with Selvala though is that like it only hits one thing, so like the live draw in your deck is something like exactly Great Out Guardian, or I guess like Wirewood Symbiote or Korean Ranger, but like nothing else is really that great to hit off of this most of the time.
I mean, it definitely depends on what you need. Like,
but like, so
if you have infinite mana and this is like digging you for potentially something to
so that's definitely
as an
like
outlet, that's the big use. I think
it's definitely
better than a single
issue
draw
that Selvala runs into sometimes. I'm just thinking about it in the context of like if I draw this, I don't think I'm happy about it because like. Usually the bottleneck is getting off the ground rather than having like the density of effects in hand. But like again, strict upgrade, you're pretty much never gonna not play this in Selvala anyway. So
also like Selvala is definitely a deck where sometimes you might look at this and go like, it's not great, but I have to try because I don't want to pass the turn here. So like, if I whiff in the top 7, I whiff in the top 7, but I'm gonna lose if I don't try. So
I wouldn't keep it as a land in my opener, but. So I would say it the opposite way. I would keep it as a land, but I wouldn't keep it as a non-land as far as like how I evaluate the card in my opening.
Yep.
And then just play it last, and
like
if you rip some more lands, you could.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. And next up, we have for some reason Skyclave Apparition. It casts for 1 white. It is a 2/2 creature core spirit. When Skyclave Apparition enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target non-land, non-token permanent you don't control with converted mana cost 4 or less. When Skyclave Apparition leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner creates an XX blue illusion creature token, where X is the converted mana cost of the exiled card. So it's like an O-ring, I guess, but on a creature. And
the
Lyndon
card
seems
doesn't
to
come
think
back
that if
when
you're
it leaves.
playing, so I guess it's more like what's the one that gives them a dinosaur?
Yeah.
But whatever. It exiles the thing, and then when it leaves, they make a 3/3. But I guess you can find it on Yasan or like Fiend Artisan or something in like bad decks.
Yeah, this is like a very niche card that you would consider for like a Sans Blue kind of creature based toolboxy deck, where previously, if you wanted to remove a creature or some kind of like permanent, like maybe some decks are running Rexage or Caustic Caterpillar or something, but removing creatures is a lot more difficult.
Unless you're in blue, in which case you have Gilded Drake.
Exactly. Like if you're exactly, it's a very niche, Sans Blue thing, but the fact that it answers everything, and it's not just like a O-ring effect where if it goes away it comes back. Like if it goes away, they just get like, some dorky, X creature token, which, in CDH no one cares about. So almost no one cares about, obviously Timnas and stuff, but it's something to consider if you are doing like toolboxy stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to consider your Birthing Pod or your Court of Calling or your Eldritch Evolution as an answer for anything in play.
So at one point, I would have been happy about this as like just another addition to the pile of Hulk piles and pile of Hulk pieces that you can play.
But thankfully,
that archetype is long dead. I mean, it's still like fine. It's like I can't bring myself to try to fit this into a Hulk deck because like I sort of feel like you just want to be on Blue Hulk anyways, so you're going to be playing Gilded Drake. But I mean, for non-blue Hulk decks in the format now, you have the option of piling this with Torch Courier and
I don't know who hates themselves enough.
Torch Courier and Apprentice Necromancer in order to double Hulk along with having a catch-all for any problematic permanent. Which like isn't terrible, but getting to the point where your Hulk's in the bin anyway outside of Virals is an issue with something like a Linvala on board. So.
Nice.
Okay. Up next, we have Cinderclasm, which is a red instant for cast for a 1 and a red. It has Kicker for a red, and it reads Cinderclasm deals 1 damage to each creature. If it was kicked, it deals 2 damage to each creature instead. So, it kind of falls in this weird area of like, it's not a doesn't do 2 damage on 2 like it would if it was a Pyroclasm. It's an instant, which is nice. So off on the front side without Kicker, it's kind of like a worse Electrickery because you can't cast it for 1 to like remove a Mind Sensor, Notion Thief, and it's not like asymmetrical. So it's between that, but obviously Electrickery has the ceiling of only 1 damage, whereas this can be dealing 2 damage to things. But the doing that on 3 is rough. So doesn't hit Draneth.
Just the obvious.
Yeah.
I think like it's less correct to think about it in terms of like what it does in a vacuum, and more correct to think about it in terms of like what it compares to right now, which is like it obviously compares to Flame Sweep in the decks that currently play Flame Sweep. And what you really have to think about is how much do you care about not hitting your own flyers? Which
is like pretty
really
much 0 in every deck except Kickar, right?
Yeah. Well, so in Kickar, but also like any other deck that's playing it is either not going to be playing flyers or is going to be playing like even Mind Sensor or Birds, which is like exactly 1 card, so it's not really even a factor. And then the other factor is like how much do you really not want to pay red, which is a real cost because like if you're playing like 4-color Rashmi, red is not particularly easy to make, but
I think the counterpoint is that like I think the jump from 1 to 2 is like a lot smaller than it was.
Yeah.
Or like it has been historically.
And so so the bonus is also you can cast this for 2 at instant speed, which is fairly attractive, right?
Particularly to kill a couple of threats with flash, like Notion Thief, even Mind Sensor.
Yep. And also just wiping dorks in general. You can get most dorks with just 1 damage. And if you can do that with 2 mana instant speed, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, like hit the Bloom Tender, hit the Priest of Titania.
Yeah, Cinderclasm I think is just a very weird card to kind of evaluate. There's this kind of if you're looking in just red, you've obviously got your things like I was saying, Electrickery. Then you're going into your 2 CMC sorcery speed Clasm tier, then your 3 CMC instant speed Clasm tier, and then your 3 CMC sorcery speed like 3 damage wipes. So there's like this kind of weird tier there, and then if you're not in like exclusively looking at red, you're also like Zealous Persecution. So depending on where the meta is, it's like okay, is or you can even get like Massacre potentially. Like so, it's how important is 2 to remove things. Like, how important is asymmetry, double red? Like, evaluating these cards and placing them is so meta dependent. It's really tough.
Yeah,
it's definitely it definitely like either one of its modes compares poorly to any other card you might compare it to, but
stapled together.
Flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hardest part about this card is the fact that it doesn't do anything better than something that already exists, and it's how and I think that the main problem is the modality is usually like, if one of those effects is good, you'd rather, or I think most of the time you'd rather kind of focus in on those kinds of effects. So like, I know in Godo, the Drannith obviously being important, I increased like the amount of like I cut back on like all the Clasms and are running all the Sweltering Suns, like 3 CMC damage wipes. So like I wouldn't look at like, man, if this did 3, that'd be so gas. But yeah,
change it to multi-kicker.
Oh my! Now we're talking.
Yeah. Okay.
Let us move to Merfolk Windrobber for a blue creature Merfolk Rogue. Flying, whenever Merfolk Windrobber deals combat damage to a player, that player mills a card. Sacrifice it, draw a card. Activate this ability only if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard for a 1/1. So I think this is like a classic great Edric card that has an upside.
And which Edric pilots will find some reason to not play, knowing our luck.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I have to hate this card because as like, oh, it's a flying rogue, it's a rogue flying man for Edric. It has so much text and takes so long to read out that I just feel like we're not getting good value,
The thing about this is that I think the milling a card on damage is it actually is sometimes relevant. I know Godo, I tell them to stop running this every time when I go to that server, but they love their Codex Shredder. And you know what? This will shred Imperial Seals. I mean, I can't imagine anyone playing Imperial Seal into this in play.
Yeah, the problem is you actually have to play into it.
Yeah. But I mean, acting as a stacks piece against top deck tutors is sort of
no,
nice.
but it acts as a stacks piece against Imperial
Just
Seal. That's
sorcery speed.
Hey, also stops personal tutor from Urza.
Yeah, sorcery speed,
and
top tutors.
Sylvan tutor from some Get Rog, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an Edric card, right? It's a flying man.
It's an Edric card.
Next we got Ashaya, Soul of the Wild. So I just want to note that I've been playing with the OG Ashaya for a while in my mono green Nissa EDH deck and casual.
I was going to say,
downticks
OG
to make
Ashaya is a token.
It is
on
a token.
Backside of
On the
That's like
backside of a
actually the
football
most well hidden, like legendary
I do have a token,
in the game.
though. I do have an Ashaya token, so
A legendary token created by a flipped card.
Anyway, Ashaya Soul of the Wild is the 3 green legendary creature elemental, star power and toughness. It's power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. And it has the ability that non-token creatures you control are forest types in addition to their other types. So this is pretty neat for, first of all, land animation and casual EDH, which I'm assuming is what it's supposed to be for. But interestingly enough, in actual CDH, it does a combo with Quarian Ranger and Big Dorks, which is pretty interesting for mono green, because when you turn, Quarian Ranger. When you turn Quarian Ranger into a forest, it can bounce itself to activate its ability, so you can bypass its once per turn clause by just replaying it. So if you have something that makes like just 2 mana out, you can just go
anything
crazy.
better than a green.
Yeah, anything that makes more than 1 mana and is a creature will combo to make infinite mana with Ashaya plus that. So it's not great in the command zone because obviously you're looking for Quarian Ranger plus that, like plus a bigger dork plus an outlet.
You also
and
you do get redundancy in the command zone because it also works with Magus at the Candelabra.
Yeah, it's just like not good.
It's definitely not good.
It's but where this is sort of interesting is, first of all, in Zavala, because it can sort of smooth out some of your combo turns, and it gives you another route to infinite mana that's not routed directly through Zavala, which is nice. But the big upgrade here is for Yasan. Basically, with specific lines, typically turn 1, verse 1 Quirion Ranger into verse 2 or verse 3 or verse 4 Big Dork. And then you just find an outlet on any of the other verses. And then verse 5
The
Ashaya.
Yasen lines are a bit more like intricate. Like it's not just the standard combo line, because like
because you can find other stuff as
lines
well.
that are as fast as Ashaya in the past. Like
It's just streamlined where like
it's
you can
streamlined, and it allows like some more protected lines.
You can put Ashaya into the list in a way that you haven't been able to slot the combos in before, because Ashaya, you just like sort of put in Ashaya and you're already playing all the other cards anyway, which is nice. And then it also like it cleans up very well, because you just have to get up to 5 to win. Because before, I think you had to get up to 4. You can also cheese
the case.
Yes. You have to double verse on 4.
Yeah, which is
for the standard combo.
It locks you into like dedicating your earlier verses a lot more heavily, because you have to get an untapper in one of your two.
And the thing is too, right? Like you could get a protected, like you go for a more protected line with like a Sylvan Safekeeper first instead of the combo, and then you could go into Ashaya and then into like Woodland Bellower to find your Quirion Ranger, or like there's a bunch of weird kind of side lines that are kind of fringe that it kind of opens up.
And you also can do like Script Ranger stuff, so you go like turn or verse 1 Sylvan.
I definitely don't love that you can't use your untapper before finding this, but
yeah. But I mean, it's still it cleans up the Yasan lines, which is the big one. It doesn't necessarily make Yasan that much faster, I would say, just because like getting Yasan up to verse 5 is sort of a bit of a task anyway, and I feel like my personal opinion is like once you get Yasan to verse 5, it feels like you're in a winning position anyway.
The line I was looking at, I think is kind of cool, because it's actually relevant to what Morgan is saying. How you can't use your untapper to then go get Ashaya. So Scrib Ranger has flash, so you can't do it. You can't combo on your turn at sorcery speed. Mm-hmm. But what you can do is you can go into verse into Ashaya next turn. You can do combos with the Scrib Ranger, and then relevant, if your first verse is something like a Sylvan Safekeeper, you can, and this is like uncharted territory in terms of like none of the lines are like super worked out or whether or not this is optimal, but I was having a discussion with Shaper, and he mentioned this as kind of a joke, but I was looking at Protean Hulk in terms of enabling some stuff. And if you get Sylvan Safekeeper,
Protean Hulk to Sylvan Safekeeper, oh my god!
Okay.
And we're moving on. Actually, though, it is sort of interesting. Though, one thing that we haven't noted yet is that Ashaya also basically, as soon as it hits the board, protects you from every blue piece of removal on the planet, which is sort of fun. So once Ashaya hits the board,
decay, but it also dodges.
So once Ashaya hits the board, you can no longer Chain of Vapor. Cycrift, you can't even overload a Cycrift to get rid of their board. Like, you can't do anything really aside from like Pongify and Rapid Hybridization, because it turns all your things into lands, and most removal, if it's like generic, will say non-land. So
Boomerang new CDH staple.
So there's something to look at.
Not Assassin's Trophy though. F in chat.
All right, I think that it is me next, right?
Yeah.
So next up we have a cycle of lands. There's 6 of them, and it's the Pathway cycle, where they're double-faced cards, and one side taps for one color of mana, and the other side taps for another. And you choose when you play them. So we've got Riverglide Pathway, which is blue-red; Bright Climb Pathway, white-black; Clearwater Pathway, blue-black; Branchloft Pathway, green-black; Needleverge Pathway,
green-white;
red-white; and Cragcrown Pathway, red-green. So these are good options for 2-color decks. I think the blue-black one will likely see the most play, because there's a lot of
good.
consult. Blue-black's good, and people will try and make consult mana bases, particularly in blue-black.
Yeah.
And so this is just like another option that probably most of the time will make blue, but then when you really need the black to cast your like necropotence or
And
whatever.
on the complete opposite side of this, Needle Verge Pathway will see the absolute zero amount of play.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Yikes.
nobody plays Boros, and no 3-color plus deck is ever going to want one of these.
And if you were playing Boros, you would want your planes to be actually planes because
Yes.
you're probably playing Blood Moon.
Yep.
Yeah, in terms of power level, obviously I don't think the lands are that strong. Like I think a lot of times decks would prefer something like the like a fast land.
Wait, like a Mirrodin or Kaladesh land? That's a spicy take. Because those start coming into play tapped real fast.
I mean, they come into play tapped on turn 4. Right?
That's
like
pretty
on
fast,
your 4th land drop. I wouldn't say that's too fast, but the important thing with those obviously is that you can play a specific color 1-drop on turn 1, and then you can use that to play like double or triple things later. Whereas like Clearwater Pathways, like if you want to do a turn 1 Ponder Preordain, it's not going to help you cast your Necropotence later. So the thing that I think that kind of compares to is like filter lands, whereas it's kind of like the opposite effect of a filter land, whereas a filter land, after turn 1 is just, amazing for helping you fix colors. Obviously with the drawback of, holding up mana and whatnot, but if you're smart with tapping, then you can usually get around that. But this is for it helps enable your turn 1 plays, and then just gets worse every turn after.
But I mean, it's still like in a 2-color deck. It's not like a basic is
Yeah.
like a huge liability.
Yeah.
You're already, like, for the most part, a bit overloaded on basics, so any piece of fixing that you can get is welcomed.
Yeah, I think also the blue-red one is not, like, even though blue-red is actually a pretty popular color combination, probably not going to see a huge amount of play because those decks often run Blood Moon back to basics.
Yeah.
And/or
It's
Mystic
definitely
Sanctuary, which just, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, it should be noted that they will be completing, I'm pretty sure they've announced that they will be completing this cycle in the next standard set. So, unlike Battle Bond lands, which have they
We're
announced? Those are coming out for Commander Legends,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
After
So
like a year
there's
or
no
so.
question on whether or not
Yeah.
these are coming or how long it will take. These are coming out. The rest of the cycle's coming out pretty
Actually, I
It
guess it's
cheeses
been,
me
like,
a little bit that it's a 6-4 split, but hey.
I guess
Yeah.
I said a year. Has it been 2 years since Battle Bond?
Yeah, that was in
Yeah.
2018.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Jeez.
So
Cool.
even more
So-
shame on Wizards for waiting
Exactly.
2 years to print.
Next up, we have Thieving Skydiver. So Thieving Skydiver is a creature merfolk rogue. It's a 2/1. It casts for 1 and a blue. It has Kicker X, where X can't be 0. That's important. And it has flying. And whenever Thieving Skydiver enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, gain control of target artifact with converted mana cost X or less. If that artifact is an equipment attached to Thieving Skydiver. If this card could pay X 0,
Oh my
Oh, boy.
god, it would be
Yeah,
great.
that'd be
Oh, boy.
spooky.
Oh my god, it would be so good.
That being said, paying 1 to steal a mana crypt is still like a 3-mana 2/1 flyer in a Tymna deck that also steals someone's crypt. I'm still on
It's
board.
definitely
Yeah, because
solid,
it basically refunds its own mana, right?
Well, I mean, they tap it. So
Ideally,
not
yeah.
really, but
Yeah. Every set I'm like, you know what? I think Tymna might slowly be getting just not the cards it needs, and then we get these amazing Tymna jars
So-
that almost specifically need evasion and then some ability attached to it.
So I'd say yes on all of that, but like I'm not particularly excited for this because personally I just feel like Thada Adele is just the better card.
I was gonna say that, dude. You
Like-
you fucking sniped
like,
me on
I've
that, man. I was gonna
played-
say this is Thada Adele.
I played a
this is,
fair,
yeah.
like I've played more than I should have with Thada Adele and Tymna, and like this just looks worse to me.
well, okay.
I was
so
dude doesn't collect infinite soul rings, man.
two things. One, it doesn't cost double blue. 2, you get the thing a lot sooner, or somewhat sooner, not that much sooner. But I think the big thing is that you take someone's soul ring or crypt.
yeah,
or,
so the
like,
whole thing is
yeah.
like you put somebody down a piece of ramp, and they also can't remove it before you take their thing. But that being said, like, as soon as you get 2 attacks in with Thada, it's like so much better. And even before then, if there's no like Soaring or Mana Crypt out, you're like only taking a Mox. Which, I mean, yeah, you're taking a Mox, but it's not as good as like the next turn swinging and then taking a Crypt or Soaring. You can also
take one of the fun things to do with Thada Adele is you can take people's Sensei's Divining Tops.
Yeah.
So you can draw cards, and then you can also like mess up their top decks.
Yeah, you can put it on top of their deck and make them annoyed.
Attack them. Yeah, that's funny, actually.
I feel like it's not a good use of our time, but it is kind of an interesting discussion of what's better, flying or Island Walk.
Yeah. I feel like...
True. That's kind of, Island Walk, but okay.
Yeah, it's Island Walk. Sure. Let's move on. So, Archon of Emeria is our last one, I think, or maybe.
Yeah, it's our last.
Yeah, that's our last one. 2 and a white creature Archon for a 2/3 flying. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. Non-basic lands your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped.
It's kind of so we said that we were doing these in orders from shitters to heavy hitters, and it's kind of telling about this set that this is the heaviest
heavy hitter.
Yeah,
it's not even a card I think is going to see like a crazy amount of play. Like it definitely has. It's definitely the all-star in certain CDH decks, but not necessarily like the most popular ones.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, this is my favorite card and in the set because not just because it's the most powerful, but I do like, and this goes into several of the decks that I play. Just off the bat, I love that it's an Archon. Archon is my favorite creature type. Just these like cool things running griffins and
guess who doesn't play Archon of Valor's Reach in their CDH decks?
What? Wow. I do.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
In your CDH decks?
Yeah.
sorry. In your CDH decks, right?
No, I remember playing like a mid-high power game and you had Archon of Valor's Reach, but never in a CDH deck.
No, you haven't in my so Anafenza Raspberry Jam has turned into Tana Timna Raspberry Jam.
Yeah, we played some like mid-high power games, I remember.
Oh my god.
Yeah, classic joke, hardy har. But yeah, no, I've been happy with Archon I was mainly putting it in there to test. I've been pretty happy with it. But I just another Archon for the collection. But yeah, so in decks, so the Raspberry Jam deck, and I think Blood Pod and these other Staxy White Bears decks are even like Timna Bears decks. The fact that it has flying is just wow. And if you want a lot of rule of law effects on creatures, like. This is just, a slam dunk.
Well,
so
even if you don't want a lot of rule of law effects on creatures, even if you want like one rule of law effect to play in your Timna deck, like
it's a pretty good one to put
Archon is like probably just the best.
Yeah, and the non-basic land clause, it definitely doesn't justify a card, but it's definitely not like you would. People don't play like 3-mana Thalion, but it's definitely like very real gravy.
Yeah, it's not just If this is if a rule of law effect on a creature is the like just vanilla ice cream, the flying is maybe some sprinkles, right? This non-basic land entering tapped, dude, that's some like chocolate sauce, caramel sauce, like whipped cream and a cherry on top.
It's like I was about to say,
Omnath is every flavor of Dorito, and then Archon of Emeria is the ice cream.
Yeah, the ice cream sundae.
I was gonna say it's like you open up like a chocolate bar and there's like another half a chocolate bar in the packaging.
Oh my god.
No, yeah, it's
like when you order a 3-piece tender combo and there's a 4th.
Yeah, it's like when you pick up a box of Timbits and there's a couple of extra in there.
It's like when you get fries and they slipped in 1 onion ring.
Dude,
it's like when you get onion rings and there's an extra fry in there.
No, it's definitely the onion ring in the fry box.
It's like when there's like that extra little bit of like a crispy fry coating on like a fried chicken. like the extra little bit on
The
there.
little craggle,
Yeah.
I got you.
This is starting to sound like a gut check if you ask me.
Yeah, so I don't think is there anything anyone else wants to say about this set or Archon of Emeria, but I mean I think this card and we've covered everything pretty good. Cool. So our next topic that we're going to be covering in the show is what kinds of cards do you like to see in new sets? You know, it's a little bit thematic for this set, so or for this episode.
Well, for this set as well, I guess, but
yeah,
because we didn't see any of them.
We got one.
Who wants to kick things off for
Sure.
this?
This is the easiest one. So,
Yeah.
we want to see new commanders because we play a format called Commander.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Oh,
Anyone else interested in seeing new things that can be your commander? Though we do have a restriction.
We have a couple of caveats.
We've gone over this before, but it's definitely worth reiterating now. Which is we're not necessarily the biggest fans of 5 color commanders, and specifically ones that kind of just provide generic value, like Kenrith or, I guess Golos. There've been plenty, and also like we're not trying to see new partners that create 5 color decks. That's for sure.
Or less than 5 color decks. Just no partners in general, please.
Yes.
Please.
Yes. Oh,
or
God.
for that matter,
Commander Legends, no.
or for that matter, stuff
Yeah.
that just like generates generic value, like.
So, okay, I don't actually have an issue. Like, I kind of disagree. I assume we're talking about stuff like Hullen and Corvold here.
Yeah.
I am totally fine seeing those new cards as long as we also get like fun and interesting stuff. Like, I don't wish, at least from a competitive perspective, maybe in casual, I don't wish that Corvold was never printed or Hullen was never printed.
I kind of do because they take up a lot of there's just the if you look on EDHREC, so now we're delving in a bit into casual and the impacts of things on casual, because those take up a lot of the deck shares based off, newer players or just people like to gravitate towards those. So, Muldrotha, Corvold, Hullen, like all of these cards are just massively popular. So I'm not a fan of the generic do a thing, draw a card stuff. I think that there's, we've discussed it, but if you can just do something that's, it doesn't have to be,
yeah, I get. Sorry, from from a competitive perspective. So yeah, Corvold or like Hullen, sitting down in mid power and just like, oh look, it's Corvold deck number 78 or whatever.
Yeah,
is pretty lame. But like, I don't think that they've done anything unhealthy from a competitive standpoint. I wish they would also print like more interesting stuff and stuff that is more unique. And like, I guess you could argue that they're sort of taking away from that because every time they print a generic value commander, they don't print. But certainly,
and it also becomes harder to pick the more interesting commanders. Like
if they printed both, I think I'd rather they printed both than only printed the interesting one, assuming like nothing else was changed.
Yeah, see, I think in competitive they just don't really add anything. All they do is it's another avenue for someone who wants to be hipster and play like Gitrog is pretty close to this kind of effect, but it does something.
So you're saying that Gitrog doesn't add anything,
right? Like it's if Gitrog had been, if Dakmor hadn't existed, like obviously Gitrog's not really a deck, but you could envision a world where it's like if Gitrog looked more like Tatyova, right? Tatyova has combos, but it's just not like it's not doing anything particularly interesting. And
sure.
I think Corvold is very similar. And
I guess I just can't bring myself to think of like any of the do a thing draw card commanders that are listed as a culprit. I can't bring myself to think of them as a problem in CEDH, like at all.
It's more just that like a lot of them are boring, rather than being problematic.
They're boring until they're not, and then when they're not, they're broken.
Well, sure, but like. I'm just saying that I don't think it's unhealthy for Wizards to give people boring options beside the interesting options. Like I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, I wish like something like if they just put in any text besides draw a card, man, like Mazarek is cool. Like that's interesting. Even though it's like, you know, does the same, oh, if someone sacrifices a permanent, do a thing, but it forces you to explore other synergies, whereas, you know, drawing a card, no synergies required, right? And just that I like CDH decks that explore, you know, unique synergies, and, you know, just partners of kind of
Well,
are
but I
obviously
mean,
just the best thing to be doing in the kind of generic value engine, generic value engine. But, you know, printing more cards that are generic value engines in like,
I mean, I think
it's just slightly different. It's like the flavored waters, right? Where it's oh, you know, this is slightly grape flavored, slightly orange flavored. It's like not interesting.
okay. Well, I mean, I think arguably, these sort of generic commanders that we're talking about do actually explore new stuff in CEDH. Like, because sure, like, wow, every Hullen deck has a Shrieking Drake in it, but like Shrieking Drake isn't a card that goes in other CEDH decks. I think it's actually good to see decks that aren't like piles of the same staples over and over again. And like, I think that these decks, even if they're like fairly obvious synergy pieces, at least offer something like that.
Maybe Corvold's a bit of a better example, where I don't necessarily think it adds too many new cards.
I mean, I guess Dockside was like already busted, but like there's some stuff that like is.
I think one nice part about Corvold in competitive meta is that it can actually just one shot people.
every once
Dude,
in a while.
I'm 100% down for them just printing more commanders that can feasibly one shot people.
One shot. Take those words back. I don't want to be one shot and then just watch a 2-hour game.
Sure. Well, I guess the thing is that most Corvold decks don't like leverage his ability that much outside of like exactly Dockside, but.
So
like I don't know. I don't think that like I think that like Mystic Sanctuary, Ancient Tomb, Tatiova, Ghostly Flicker combos is like a lot more interesting than like generic Nas Consult number 5.
Yeah, me too.
definitely true. That being said, Matt, are you saying that you wouldn't like to see a partner printed that had 11 powers that you could pair it with Bruce Tarl and just one-shot people?
Okay, maybe I would, but then I would be the bad guy. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be the guy who says that they're okay being the bad guy as long as they're the bad guy.
I'm pretty sure there's already been a partner printed that has 11 power.
Yeah, come
It's
on.
called Ishai. I don't know. I think ultimately CDH, the less CDH is basically like just at your commander is a Phyrexian arena with just, you know, some different flavor or filter on top of it, the better, right?
I think it really boils down to like
Definitely
more
agree.
like I'm bored at this point with things drawing cards. I want to see different ways of generating value and doing interesting things rather than just drawing cards.
Okay, that being said, if we have like 20 more Kickars, I'm not going to be that happy. Like, if we're going to replace drawing cards with making mana, then we're not going anywhere.
True. Okay, so next up, we have on this is just a list of kinds of cards we like to see in new sets. So next up, we have tech choices. So who wants to start this one?
Sure, I'll sort of give an overview. So this is like seeing cards that have, you know, some use that probably already exists, but maybe some other upside or downside. So like Cinderclasm might be a good example where like, okay, Pyroclasm exists, Flame Sweep exists, but you know, maybe my deck, you know, the mana's like tight, so Flame Sweep always costing 3 is like pretty rough, but we want to be able to do it at instant speed for whatever reason. And just sort of giving people more options for like a given effect, particularly something sort of toolboxy. Another example, I guess, would be the like Skyclave apparition, where it's like, okay, well, if I'm a creature toolbox deck, I I want something that can remove things, and like this is a little bit more generic. Maybe it has downsides over, it can't remove like bigger things if that was potentially relevant in your meta, like, oh, I can't remove Seedborn Muse or whatever. So just, giving options on the margins for cards, particularly that form parts of toolboxes, is always good because it lets people tailor their decks to their meta and the kinds of threats that they're encountering.
I think one thing too about tech choices is that if it's not, and the important thing that makes it a tech choice is that it's not like an auto include or a strict upgrade over another card. So I wouldn't, like, Archon of Emeria is not a tech choice, because it's just the strict upgrade version of Eidolon of Rhetoric if you're already running that, right? So
Yeah.
it's in some ways like if a rule of law is already a tech option, like you might consider it like a tech choice, right? Like it's like, oh, I've got this like slower, grindy Tymna deck that maybe I would consider teching in a rule of law. So like it's sort of tech, but like that. But that's not really how I envision it, at least.
Certainly, I think that tech choices can overlap with like other categories we have listed. Like we have hate pieces listed, and we have interaction listed, and like I think that Drown in the Lot, for example, was a tech choice, as well as obviously being interaction.
I just don't think it should be a strict upgrade over something that kind of already exists, or just a new auto include.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Allosaurus Shepherd is a tech piece, because if you're playing a deck that utilizes like Allosaurus Shepherd is good enough, it's like an auto include tier, right? You're not teching in an Allosaurus Shepherd because maybe your meta is like, it's good in your meta. It's like if it's good for your deck, then you're just running it. Because that's the one where it's a tech choice doesn't just have to be a card that's not seeing play in every deck that it can. That's not necessarily what makes it tech choice, at least in my opinion. I think Morgan mentioning the Skyclave Apparition was a perfect example, and I think just having more tech choices allows for more, not just adaptation to the meta, your local meta, which is good. I think it just allows people to put more personal flavor into their decks, and helps increase like deck diversity, so not everything is just a list of staples.
Yeah, I guess,
which is nice.
I think, Linda, what you were trying to differentiate is like we don't want to see sort of substantial generic power upgrades, or that's not what we mean when we say tech choices.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So next up we have hate pieces.
I think the only box we actually ticked this set.
Yeah. So we have here a caveat, which is let's keep things symmetrical, and that's kind of just a like, so some things this is a caveat with caveats, because the Skyclave Apparition, the Archon of Emeria has an asymmetrical like non-basic land hate effect, which, I'm fine with that kind of asymmetry. The kind of asymmetry that I'm not fine with, and I'm sure everyone else on the podcast is not fine with, is Draneth.
Oh boy!
What
a card!
And we've talked that card to death, so we're not going to get into it again. But keeping things symmetrical generally means fair. Although in order for something to be good in CDH as a hate piece, you need to be taking advantage of that. It basically needs to be asymmetrical in the way that your deck is built and how it plays out, right?
I definitely think Archon of Emir is a much healthier card than if you swapped which clause was asymmetrical here.
It needs to have a deck building restriction associated with it.
I think that's the key.
I don't think the non-basic land clause on Archon doesn't make it a hate piece. Like, I think you can even argue that's like technically, on a technical sense, that's a tech choice. So I think that this very much is strictly a hate piece, and I'm not at all worried about the fact that it's non-symmetrical and a very tech-based clause.
I mean, there's always that whole thing about always you want good hate pieces, right? Like, you don't want just terrible 8 mana whatever hate pieces. So part of power level is that asymmetrical things are inherently more powerful. So you sort of just have to like accept some of that sometimes just to like get a card that's at the level where you actually want to play it. But yeah.
Well, the asymmetry either has to be, printed onto the card, or as Matt was saying, built into the deck.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that like, like in general, asymmetry tends to be more powerful than symmetry. So like sometimes an effect has to be asymmetrical in order for it to be like enticing enough for you to want to play with it.
Yeah.
Like cool. Non-basic lands entering tapped. that would really move this card.
Dude, that would be terrible. Oh, dude, can you imagine having to play against a card that makes your non-basic lands come into play tapped? I certainly can't.
Morgan, you want to get this next section?
Sure. Next up, we have interaction. Now, this is a fairly self-explanatory category, but I do want to say this is a fine line because we've definitely seen some interaction that's maybe unhealthy in the past little while. I think that like examples of things that I think are unhealthy or are like Fierce Guardianship and Deflecting Swat I think were very unhealthy because
Veil of Summer.
And Veil of Summer. Things that I think were very healthy were Dovin's Veto is a big one. Drown in the Lock is less big, but still pretty good. That sort of stuff. I mean, we're going a little farther back here, but like Assassin's Trophy.
I think Miscast is also a great example.
Yeah, definitely. I like if they can focus on cards that are better at stopping people than protecting your stuff.
Force of Negation. With Flash gone, right? I think Force of Negation is
Force of Negation.
I think the general idea though is like maybe like less about like better at stopping people than doing whatever. Like we might need more of that, more power in that area, sure. But I think it's more just about like print interaction that's just like good alternatives, but isn't like strictly better or better in a lot of cases than the stuff that we already have, right? Like don't power creep stuff by printing like Fierce Guardianship. Just like give us more options in areas so that like you can tune your interaction suite better, right?
I mean, a lot of things end up just being power creep. Like,
obviously,
Dovin's Veto is a power creep negate.
Yeah. But
like, I mean, lots of things are power creep.
But I'm talking about like stuff like Miscast, Drown in the Lock, cards like that, where it's like, like there are downsides to playing these, but it's also like my deck might really want this effect, and it's like it gives you more choices in your suite, and it improves skill in deck, or like it increases skill required in deck building, right? Where it's like, okay, like I actually have to think about what I'm putting into my interaction suite.
Yeah, cards with downsides and upsides over other cards are good, I would say.
Yeah, just in general.
One card that we didn't mention is Feed the Swarm. I mean, I don't know about like CDH level viability, but I'm sure Crick is thinking
Crick
about.
Is so happy about Feed the Swarm.
Yeah.
Is it?
Dude.
Like, yes, you get the like problematic enchantments of the way, but like as a unless you're removing like something crippling, which is like presumably rule of law.
Which
the whole,
I mean, if I feel
losing life is brutal in Crick.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen someone Crick block, oh my god.
It's interaction and it's a tech choice. Okay, it's clearly an all-star.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like Morgan did a pretty good job covering interaction.
Yeah.
I think this is one that's the next section, which is pieces that enable old commanders, is one that like is pretty. It's something that like lots of CDH players will resonate with, and just you don't necessarily have to print a new commander in order to introduce a new deck to CDH, which is, pretty cool. So Godo obviously was not a deck until Helm the Host was printed. And then all of a sudden, there's a new, lower tier deck into CDH. And this is the kind of thing I really like, probably more so than printing new commanders. Just because I don't know. There's something fun.
I think I do know
about it.
I think it's not. I think it just based on the quality of old commanders, they aren't just generic draw commanders.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably it.
The printing of Finale of Devastation made Anala Spellseeker like an actual deck. That was pretty spicy. Like the lines were real bad until then.
Finale of Devastation is the green one. That's the green one.
Sorry, Finale of Promise, the red one.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the getting that double, like one Spellseeker trigger, getting you like mana and another Spellseeker is like what that line needed to not be terrible. And obviously it needed Spellseeker, which itself was printed after Anala, but not as much after as Finale.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not that Anala is a particularly old commander, being from 2017, but
it is a pretty. There's very few, I would say, cards that they can print that just enable old commanders enough to bring them into CDH.
They're gonna print a Marath combo piece one day. It's gonna happen, I believe.
There's pretty high requirements for being a CDH deck, and like the new card printed has to be, a combo piece. Like it brings a deck that's already a decent like value deck into the combo piece area, or like that's pretty much it, right? Like combo pieces are really the only thing that bring decks into the forefront.
Sort of. I mean, like it's also very reasonable that like there are some other things that aren't necessarily combo pieces that could get printed, but are like very specific engines that like generate a lot of value.
I mean, I guess there's also like lock pieces technically.
Like lock pieces, but I'm also talking about like stuff like say like Boros Commander, like they print like an equipment that I don't know how it could be better than Skull Clamp already is, but like something that like matches Skull Clamp in efficiency for like producing cards, but only with like a specific commander in Boros. Like that's another thing that would bring a commander to the forefront, right?
That like still doesn't sound good enough.
but I mean like just like
so it's an equipment that you can't cast, so you can only find it with Godo and put it into play directly. And then just has a 0 activated ability, and you can only activate once per turn to draw you 2 cards. That's
r/custom magic. Here we go.
Yeah, I have a hard time thinking of examples along the line that you're talking about, Reed.
But like just like stuff like I don't know.
I think there's stuff that like you can clean up combo lines or potentially like have some combo utility, but also be useful outside of the combo. Like a card like Ashaya, where it's like Yisan can combo without it, but like it cleans it up. Obviously, Yisan's like was debatably viable already, so it's not like a huge deal, but something like that in another deck where it's like, okay, this really sort of cleans up a combo that already existed, or means that like we can cut, some bad cards for some good cards. Like again, this is already a viable deck, but the upgrade in Razakats from like Schrodinger's cat to consult, really cleans that deck up a lot. Again, it was previously viable, so whatever. But stuff along those lines.
I suppose Lithoform engine is kind of a little bit like that, where there actually is definitely more reason to be playing Brago, and Brago was at some point definitely considered a CDH deck, and now like you have a reason to play it again. So
yeah, that's fair. The next piece, honestly, our next point here that we have listed is synergy pieces, and it kind of fits in what we were just previously talking about with
it's like the reverse category kind of, where like more like I guess like I was thinking about this. I'm like, I guess technically Lab Jace and Thassa's Oracle kind of count as synergy pieces, where like the console was always a deck, or has been a deck for a while, and then they started printing redundant empty your library win effects, and that's really what made
in terms of
much better
synergy pieces. I would think more like, when I read synergy pieces, I was thinking more like Fiend Artisan,
I think like ramming up excavator for Gitrog.
Sure, that's
Like
Yeah.
that's a
or
really good
even
one. That was,
like
Yeah,
collector
I suppose.
roof is like, it's obviously a hate piece, but it's also kind of a synergy piece in that it's much more accessible in decks that want to be hating on artifacts. Like there's
Loyal Apprentice is a
I was
cool
just gonna
one.
say for this one, like,
I mean, okay, we don't
Mayhem
need
Devil.
Timna synergy pieces.
Man, that was kind of
I'm
cool.
gonna draw the line. We don't need Timna synergy pieces. We don't need Thrasio synergy pieces.
hey, like, oh, what are you talking? No, I need so many more Bowmancers familiar so I can recreate what I did last
Yeah, I
Sunday.
actually do.
By the way,
Was it even satisfying? Because you didn't even
it
get a
was
full turn
so
cycle before we just
satisfying.
conceded.
It was so satisfying. You have no idea.
But like, you just won. You didn't get to like sit on our chest and drool into our open mouths for half an hour. What's the point?
I mean, I did. Okay, I got to do the thing that I wanted to do, which was win an instant seed. But I also got to do a lot of other broken things. That was.
He had 1 mana Thrasios activations.
Oh, it was so
and
good.
Apparently,
I
we're never
I
going
went
to
turn one training ground, turn 2 Thrasios, turn 3 Bowmancers familiar, and then I played a Seaborn Muse.
Oh my god.
That's evil.
And then
That's truly
they
evil.
bounced the Seaborn Muse, took my Thrasios, then I took my Thrasios back, played the Seaborn Muse again.
No,
and
no,
then,
you didn't take your Thrasios back
Sorry,
because I could have
yeah,
stopped
I
that.
took-
You took Looter Scooter's Thrasios.
back.
I
and
could have
then-
sacrificed your
played-
Thrasios in response to you taking
and
it
then
back.
played the Seaborn Muse again, and then won in the next person's main phase.
Oh boy, it was fun.
Oh, it was great.
At least it was over quickly.
And the final thing
No,
on our
that's
list.
all the
That's all
things
we
on our
got.
list.
Wow.
We're done.
Wow,
The final thing on our list
there's
is
nothing
mid-power
great.
bombs, which is all I
Yes.
really care about in this set.
Morgan,
As far as I'm
when-
concerned, there were 280 mid-power bombs
When are we
in this
when are we
set.
gonna get them to
Yeah.
leave the nest and make their own podcast?
Right. All right, now it's time
Just you
for
wait.
everyone's favorite segment.
Good check.
Checkerino.
Gut check.
Okay, so I came up with a gut check this week that we're gonna probably have to, after I give it, we're gonna have to, wait some amount of time, cut the silence while everyone prepares their answers. But this is blatantly stolen from basically every MTG podcast that I've been doing set reviews or getting listener questions. And that is which members of the podcast, if you had to designate which members of the podcast corresponded to which role in the party, what would it be? So for the party mechanic in Zendikar is it's clerics, warriors, wizards, and rogues. So we have 4 members of the podcast. Let's all take a minute and think of who corresponds to what party member.
So I can
Is this
put
in terms of our
my
gameplay or in terms of our role in the podcast?
Whatever you want, man. Whatever you
yeah,
want.
you come up with
Well,
whatever-
give us
whatever
give
justification
us
you
a
can.
guideline here. Like, what's the
No.
no, because I want some amount of consistency in like what question we're all answering. So like, is it?
No, let's all answer different questions, man. I've got
Oh
my.
man, that's how
can
we do
all,
gut
yeah,
check.
can we all come
right?
up with different gut checks for ourselves and then answer those gut checks?
I want to see. I think part of the interest of this question is to see how everyone interprets, how they should answer it. So, you know what? Let's. Okay. Okay. So after much deliberation, we are back with our answers. And so the format we're going to be following is we're going to give the name of a podcast host, and then we're all going to say what we put for them and give our justifications, and we're going to proceed down the list. So we'll start, I guess we'll do the introduction order. So first is going to be me.
I feel like it was better when we didn't tell people what the order was. Like we just had this order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't explicit.
Okay. So what did everyone put for Lyndon?
All right. So I put.
Going in order as well.
Oh,
Okay, we're going in order.
Yeah.
So then I will give myself what I put for myself first. I put warrior for myself, and the justification for that is that I got into a I had 2 solid picks and then 2 like weak picks, and this is one
The
of the weaker
leftovers.
picks.
I feel like
Yeah,
we should give,
that's
we
to
should
do
give the
with
justifications.
I
after.
picked roles based off of podcasting justifications. So in terms of like I find the warrior to be the more like obviously bombastic or kind of charge in ahead, and I definitely like take up a lot of audio time on the podcast. So maybe that kind of works.
All right, Matt.
Okay, so Matt.
Sure. Yeah, I've got you as the rogue, but set aside all possible bad connotations of the word rogue because there are a lot. I don't mean any of them.
Okay. I'm not.
But
Yeah.
you're none of the bad connotation. I just mean like, you bring up mid power more than anyone else, so I think that puts you as the rogue.
It's just the knife in
Just
your
the
back
loose
continuously. Yeah, so I also gave Lyndon the warrior role because it's like I more pictured it as like an adventuring party, like Lyndon's the tank. he pulls all the aggro and holds all the aggro, and is also just like the person always in the lead during podcasting.
Yeah. Okay. I wonder how similar our lists are
I
going to
also
be.
put Lyndon as the warrior for very similar reasons, and also because of his aversion to playing blue.
Yep.
Dude, that was part of the consideration for the last 2, dude. I was also like, man, even though this is because I was trying to do this based off the podcast, right? I was like, the version to playing blue is not on theme, but like maybe that's just the deciding factor at the end. Okay, so what did everyone put for Matt? I'll start. I put Matt down as rogue because in terms of the podcast, rogues are sneaky, and I think Matt doesn't like they're quiet maybe, and Matt participates or takes up the least amount of time with just air on the podcast. So his content is usually like well thought out, and yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess I've told myself, right?
Yeah.
So I put myself as the ally. And
Wait, that's not a thing in the party.
Wait, am I derping?
Ally isn't part of the party.
You're derping. It's warrior, wizard, cleric, rogue.
Oh, I thought ally was okay. Never mind.
No,
never
it
mind.
just says
That-
ally on
Tazri?
Tazri because Tazri.
that makes a lot of sense. But I would be the ally
I mean,
if that was part of the party.
I thought about doing like ally as our editor roadkill.
What's there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really funny. Okay, well, I was gonna say we're all the wizards because we play magic, but I guess if I have to pick the one that I didn't allocate, I guess I'm the wizard.
Nice, Matt.
I wanted a wholesome end, and I screwed it all up.
Nice.
I put Matt down as the cleric because more of a support role, Same thing.
Yeah, I definitely I put Matt down as the cleric as well. Just keeping the party together, People get bruised
glue.
up, and he's just there to smooth things over and let us keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. What did everyone put for Reed? I gave Reed wizard, mostly because it was the last. This was the toss up between warrior and wizard between me and Reed. So I was like, okay,
You're
I can
not the
justify
wizard,
warrior for
Lyndon.
myself. Yeah, exactly. Right. That's exactly. So Reed, you're the wizard. I guess in terms of podcasting, you're talking about and I don't
massive
know.
DPS.
It's a big F on that one. Yeah.
Always casting fireballs.
Well, I put Reed as the warrior, and you may be surprised by this one, but he always charges headfirst into Hulk piles in every single point we make. So if he fights for a cause, it's Hulk piles.
No, I guess it won't be different. So Morgan's gonna be the double up because I put myself down as the rogue.
Okay.
I don't know. I just feel because rogues tend to be shitty people. It's just shitty
Nice.
person.
It's like, oh yeah, there's something I can steal. Well,
Oh
I
yeah,
guess I'm
no,
gonna steal it.
100%. Yes.
The classic chaotic neutral.
I'm just the
Or,
absolute
I'm sorry,
worst.
chaotic stupid.
And I don't think you can describe any other role in a party as the absolute worst. So I think it just matches.
All right, so Reed and I don't have the exact same lists. I put him down as the wizard because he's just constantly experimenting and trying new stuff and brewing with garbage blue red wizard commanders, and
I didn't even
like
mention it
literally
this
every card
podcast.
we ever discuss, he's like, yeah, so I have a brew for that. Like, it's truly incredible
true.
because
In terms of
I do a
arcane
lot of
knowledge
brewing,
and like,
but-
yeah. Okay. Last but not least, it's Morgan.
by
So
process of
I picked-
elimination.
I put Morgan down as cleric because as the you're talking about support role and healers are the a cornerstone of any adventuring party, but they also anyone who plays a healer in like a MOBA or like any game will tell you just how underappreciated they are in terms of like what they do, and they just and they bitch all the time on on like online about oh man, no one appreciates all the stuff we do. But so Morgan does like editing for the show and like keeps us on schedule and does the finances and manages social media. So he definitely does a lot of the hidden behind the scenes work and probably doesn't get enough credit for it. So that's why I picked the cleric.
Aw.
I
So
feel like
I put
also
Morgan as the cleric as well.
I feel like clerics are
And-
also usually like smug assholes. So
Yeah.
no, I'm just better than you. I'm like a wizard, but I can also heal people. I'm basically just better.
Yeah, I put him as the leader, the resident leader of the CDH community, but read CDH community as just religion because I don't think he does anything else but think about CDH.
True. Yeah, like lots of clerics have their I guess like in D&D they have like affiliations to like gods and religions and stuff, right? So I mean, actually I've never played D&D, so like I'm pulling this out of whatever
You're not
random
wrong.
knowledge I have. Yeah, okay. So Morgan's affiliation is to the Church of CDH.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
I put
Okay,
Morgan
Reed.
down as the wizard just because the like Morgan has done more writing on the theory of CDH out of like pretty much anybody in the community, I think at this point.
True.
So pretty much like just from that standpoint alone, but also just an all main and constantly playing different decks.
Do I main and all? I don't think I main anything. But
Morgan has high
Yeah.
affinity for wizards in
I do.
Dude, Anala is mainable
I
at
have-
this point.
all 3 wizard commanders from the wizard deck built currently, so fair enough.
was that
2017.
2017? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And I put myself as the rogue, because I mean rogues are often the skill monkeys of the party. It's like, oh, we need someone who can climb things. It's like, oh, well, the rogue's like, well, I guess if I can sneak in, I guess I'll take climb or whatever. And also because while they may seem like they're quiet and sneaky, they actually wind up taking up a huge amount of playtime and actual gameplay because they
my
go off
God,
and do
do
things
they?
by themselves. And then so yeah, I put myself as the
And
rogue.
to wrap it up, the ally role
The ally
is
role-
given to the listeners of the
Oh.
podcast.
Wow, just shafting roadkill. Fucking brutal. Okay. I guess Roadkill
man.
does listen to the podcast, so he's included in that.
Yeah.
But
Um,
definitely
yeah, you're-
a big shout out.
You're all the allies of the party. So, okay, so I'd be very interested to hear what all of the listeners think. Who was the most right in terms of party assignments, or if they think it's something completely different. What everyone's justifications. I don't know. I really like this gut check question, even though I blatantly ripped it off of every other content creator, just because it's it's everyone was copying each other because it was a good question.
I will definitely be putting up a channel for people to vote in on the Discord when this episode goes up. So go check that out if you want to check out what people's responses are and vote yourself.
Also, to anyone who's ever said that 4 people is probably too many to have on a podcast.
Incorrect. The perfect amount.
It was, in fact, the longest con. Literally almost 2 years in the making, but it paid off.
For this exact gut check.
Got him.
Okay. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. If you guys would like to reach out to us with any questions, comments, or concerns, you can contact us on Twitter at Into the North Pod, via our email, intothenorthpodcast@gmail.com, or on our Discord server, the invite link for which can be found in the description for this episode. An extra special thanks to all of our patrons who help cover the expenses for our show and allow us to work towards improving the quality of the podcast. If you too would like to become a Patreon, we are at patreon.com/intonorthpodcast. Another way you can support us is via our TCG Player affiliate link. So anytime you want to purchase something from TCG Player, if you use our affiliate link, which is in the podcast/YouTube description, a portion of your purchase goes towards supporting the podcast. Thank you as always to the band Vox Cadre for lovely podcast music, to Nate Slover for our equally lovely podcast logo, and to our long-suffering podcast editor Roadkill. Next episode will be out in 2 weeks. Until then, see ya.
Bye.
See ya.
Have a good